What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Halo Season 1, Episode 2, which is called Unbound. This episode is once again directed by Otto Bathurst. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome! Hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at top to find out what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome! Hit that like button as well as commenting below on any video that you watch, including this one. So I now know why I'm stuck on this ring planet that is Halo, that is apparently very important to the story of Halo. I know now why I haven't been rescued. It's because nobody knows where I'm at. That's just a joke. I'm really at a green screen background, a very poorly lit one. But Unbound is an interesting episode. It's an episode that progresses the story pretty well, to be fairly honest. It's an interesting one in the simple fact that it's very toned down from the first episode, which was very action oriented, but it starts to deliver some really interesting concepts and ideas and makes you wonder where this story is going to lead, which I have a couple of theories. I think this story is going to lead in either two different places, or it's going to lead into the story of Halo Reach, which is the destruction of Reach, and then into the original Halo movie itself, or Halo game itself, which is what Halo Reach was, a prequel to Halo. But once again, I really like this episode. I don't know what people thought of the first episode because I'm reviewing this like earlier than when the actual reviews come out and the people that watch the episode. But I found the kind of humanistic approach to this episode was really well done. I mean, this episode opens up in essence with a young John 117. We don't know his last name, but he's known as John 117 or Master Chief, however you want to call him. That's what he's known as. He's a young recruit. He has scars, which I'm assuming are the enhancements from Halsey. And he sees that Soren 66 or Soren 066 is missing. So he goes after Soren 66, who is outside in this compound that looks straight out of something like, I don't know, Skynet or something like that, if you've seen one of the Terminator movies. But he actually jumps over a fence, not like jumps it, but he climbs over it. And that's when he finds Soren, who is eventually played by Bokeem Woodbine. And basically, Soren is an individual that is going to leave. He's going to run away. He's going to be a deserter in a lot of aspects because he doesn't believe what's happening is justified. It's not good. It shows the evilness of Halsey, who we know is a villain in the series. And I thought that was really potent because he's like, John, come with me. But John is so trained and brainwashed and kind of in his own world that he just can't do that. He's actually going to shoot Soren for his beliefs in the program. He thinks they're going to change things for the better. But John actually lets him leave, which is kind of interesting. And so Soren, who shows us his hand, which is very disturbing to see. This is why we know Halsey's a bad person, why the things are not going right. Because his hand has like this really big, crazy disfigurement with like some metal sticking out and stuff like that. Really just kind of depressing. And of course, John gives him 5 minutes to leave and Soren leaves. And we learn later that it didn't go so well for Soren, but we'll talk about that when we get there. What I like about that is it's taking that approach of giving John a backstory. This is a TV series. It has to do a lot more than the video game series, which the video game of Halo can get convoluted in some aspects. So having this back history kind of condensed, because I'm sure some of the books actually have some of his back history, is really nice. It's very strange with what Bungie and 343 Studios or Industry Studios, whatever they're called, have done, where you've never seen John's face and you never really get a good perspective. He kind of cared about Cortana, which happens in the first game. We know that he's a guy that's he's an individual that is built for war, but has a personality that is very much humanistic in its route. And that's what this episode does. It shows the humanistic side to why John does and saves Kwan, because he's built as a non-thinking individual. And basically what's happening is Halsey's manipulating the system. Paganowski knows this, and they're in a meeting and they talk, and basically Halsey's able to, in a nutshell, research and initiate the Cortana program, which, if you think about where the Halo games have gone, Cortana was always an interesting figure. It became very dependent. John became very dependent on Cortana and John. She eventually was turned into the much more evil situational character, where she became evil and out of control, and it plays even in Halo Infinite and stuff like that. But what's nice is we're eventually going to see Cortana, I'm sure, break from the system and work with Master Chief and the whole where I think this series is going, which is, like I said, I think it's going to be of the fall of Reach, and I think it's going to eventually lead to the first Halo game, where I'm assuming this series is going to be successful, and I think at the end of the season we're going to see John or Master Chief on the Halo planet, and that's where the next season is going to begin. we'll see if that happens. I may be wrong. Maybe they'll still continue to be looking for this ring. But the other kind of thing that's going on as well is we have the prophets and we have McKee. One of the elite brutes or whatever comes and talks to the prophets, explains that John is able to command this keystone, this relic, whatever you want to call it, and he actually does a ring circle. I'm skipping ahead in the episode just to kind of break it down, but he basically does a circle motion, and they find out that Master Chief might be the key to finding the halo. Which they say ring. In essence, it's a halo. It's what we've known as the halo, which I'll get into the kind of the concepts and ideas on what I think about that situation. But it also leads to a moment where McKee wants to go and find the keystone, the relic, bring it back to them. She wants to do it on her own against the prophet's wishes, but they agree to do it. And there's kind of a moment with her, and there's some actual nudity in this episode, which I was surprised about because this series is definitely doing things that the video game franchise didn't do, but they definitely do something like that. There's something kind of awe and aura and just kind of sensual in nature, I guess you could say, with her character. Who she is, what she is, it's not entirely shown, but she has like some weird kind of scars on her back and stuff like that. So she might play into John's life. Maybe John has a history with her. I don't entirely know. But this leads into like the major part of the story. So Kwan and John have escaped from Reach for the moment, but they go into slip space, which is their version of hyperspace from like Star Wars and stuff like that. You know, it's a way to travel between location to location in a quick amount of time. They land in an asteroid field, which is straight out of Star Wars. They borrow heavily from a lot of other shows and movies and stuff like that, which I don't necessarily have a problem with because Halo is in essence borrowing from a lot of tropes when it comes to first-person shooters, when it comes to video game characters, when it comes to the tropes of the characters versus, good versus evil, and sci-fi and stuff like that. So it's very much something you've seen before. So this doesn't bother me when they do like the going through the asteroid field, because it's very beautiful. Like I said in my last episode review, they need to enhance the visual effects, make them better, and they're absolutely amazing. Like the prophets are amazing looking. The space, asteroid stuff that they kind of fly through is amazing. Everything about it is amazing. It just really looks well done, and the money's really spent. But in essence, this is where Master Chief and Kwan land at this, looks like an asteroid colony, basically. And it's called the Rubble, which we learn about when Bokeem Woodbine's character comes in. And it's really interesting because you're so used to like running gun and shooting and all that stuff. It's really interesting. There's not any of that in this episode. It's basically a dramatic centerpiece for Master Chief and Kwan get on to the station, which looks very much like a prison planet of sorts, but it's really like a free enterprise planet where anything can go, anybody can do whatever they want. And it has some good moments because the residents are pointing guns at Master Chief like it's going to do anything. They know Master Chief's a very big, important character, and they actually try to block him with this like a bunch of like big boxes and stuff like that with the vehicle. He's like, nope. Pushes the blocks out of the way, which I really enjoyed. But this is when we meet the older Soren, who's played by Bokeem Woodbine, and he's a fun character. He's a character that's going to have some semblance throughout the entire season or series, however long he's in it. But he's basically a guy who lives on this kind of place called the Rubble. Like I said, just very free enterprise, open, whatever they want to do, they can do. And then, of course, John takes off his helmet again because apparently Master Chief's not going to wear his helmet very much in the show, as we see through this first two episodes. But they both like say hi to each other in their own ways, and this is when Kwan's introduced to Soren and stuff like that, and they take him on this like really cool vehicle. The Soren character, Soren 66, takes him on this really cool vehicle, it runs along a track, and then it falls off the track onto like the middle of space or whatever, so it's floating, then it attaches itself to a wire, and it kind of uses a zip wire down to where Soren lives, which is this asteroid that lives right off the rubble itself. And this is where we meet Soren's wife. This is where we meet his children. And this confuses John, which is really interesting because John is a very focused individual with a lot of, not very much personality, which is not what his character is meant to have. But I like the progression of John's character a little bit in this because the way he talks, but the way Soren tries to kind of maybe reconfigure him with like food or, talks about like the training programs of, the UNC, how they've affected him. There's a point where they talk about the little thing in the back of John's head, like his helmet, that basically injects him with, getting rid of his personality, getting rid of every emotion, so he can become a killing machine. And that really is interesting to me, because if you think about it, the UNC in this world is literally a corporation, a company, where they have an experimental program where they get rid of your soul. They get rid of your human emotions, what makes you human, so you can be a war-fighting machine. And that kind of stuff is really fascinating to me, in the simple fact of when you think about it and you think about what John's 117 is, or Master Chief is, everything about him is non-human, is like as far away from human as possible, and it's really sad. It really is. It's another level of emotion that really gets to the depth of this character, and it's going to be really interesting to see, which I know where they're going to go with him. They're going to progress his character to give him more emotion. It's falling back on the trope of like the Mandalorian, who had literally no emotion, and when Grogu came along, or Baby Yoda, however you want to call him, there was that emotional kind of break, which this episode's called Unbound anyways, but there was that emotional break of his character and his feelings. I mean, his feelings, in a way, from what you can do with his character, started to slowly, like the Grinch, eke into his heart. And that's what's going to happen here, and you already see that with Kwan. He rescued Kwan. He took Kwan to this place called the Rubble, and I thought that was really a kind of an interesting way to approach this character. But in the process of everything, Kwan sees a video, which is, it's another thing that they're doing in this series, which makes this series really, really dark. I mean, Halo is a dark series to begin with when it comes to violence and the kind of idea of like, nationalism and authoritarianism, and of course the idea of trying to destroy worlds and stuff like that with the Covenant and eventually the Flood and so on and so forth. And we watch a video of people being executed by Venture, who is the guy that is taking over Madrigal. And what's really interesting is Madrigal was this world that had a leader that was, very open to the world. And that's the reason this resistance is happening, because Venture has been put in place because of the UNC, because the UNC are stupid people, and he just starts executing people. He even lifts the shroud, or the mask, or whatever, the hoodie of the one lady, and you're like, oh my god, the look on her face, realizing what's going to happen. It's brutal to watch. It really is. And he's very much like, I think I want to say Wolfenstein, or I don't know. He's very much dictatorship. They're over the top and crazy, and they have just that way about them in video game space. But it's really disturbing. Kwan sees it, and that's when we get into her father and everything they were trying to do. And then we learn about, Soren's wife. Her whole planet was destroyed by the Covenant and stuff like that. But that's the kind of stuff that makes this episode so impactful in a lot of respects. That makes it go beyond the typical sci-fi route, because of all the humanistic approaches and all the concepts and ideas, and the fact that they're giving these characters that really weren't ever three-dimensional, a dimensional feel to them. And in the process of everything, they take John and they take Kwan to this guy named Reth, who's in a Silence of the Lambs style cell or whatever. He's in there. He doesn't even have a lock on his cell, but he's there as kind of a way to protect himself. And Reth is this like crazy, strange hermit style guy who just off his nut, bad teeth, just all over the place. And he knows all about, Madrigal. He knows all about this artifact called the Keystone. He says he was on the Covenant ship, which is interesting. And he says nobody's been able to start up the Keystone. And he's like, he tells John, you want to destroy you want to destroy it with a Halo ring. And John's like, no. So this guy Rest starts to throw the Keystone against the wall because it doesn't do anything when he touches it. I thought that was interesting. As soon as John touches it, it lights up. It creates the Halo ring, believe it or not, which is really interesting because, like I said, this is a show called Halo. When we remember Halo, especially in the first game that wasn't a spinoff, he lands on the Halo ring. So the fact that they haven't even gotten to the Halo ring, it makes this a prequel in a lot of respects. It makes it a prequel to what the Covenant are doing. And the question I have that I can't figure out, and maybe I'm missing something, and it's probably in the books or something like that, and I'm sure someone's going to tell me, but the Halo ring is a weapon, I guess. I think, if I remember right, it can be used to obliterate worlds, and I think that's right. I think that happens in the Infinite and stuff like that. That's pretty much why the Covenant are looking for these artifacts, is they want to destroy humanity. It's the whole destroying humanity thing's weird because you destroy everything in life. What happens after that? It's like when the Joker, if he were to kill Batman, it's like, what do I do next? It just, you lose all perspective and reality when you're starting to destroy countries or worlds. And there's a lot of, a lot of people won't like this, but there's a lot of using of today's reality in the show about, like, destroying countries and worlds, and this side between sides and the corrupt nature of corporations and stuff like that. But after everything's said and done, John is going to leave Kwan at the rubble. Soren's going to take care of her while he's gone, and he's going to turn himself into the UNC, because also on top of everything, the Spartans are actually the other Spartans, the Silver Team. I found out it's called the Silver Team because I wasn't sure in the first episode. They are on a quest to find where Master Chief is. And what's interesting about those characters and what I really like is there's a lot of doubt, especially in the female character, which I can't remember her name, but she really doesn't understand what's happening. It's the same thing with another one of the Spartan characters, and I like that doubt. I really do. I think that's a really interesting kind of character motivation for Spartans, because, like I said, they're very much killing machines, and the whole idea of the Cortana thing, to basically what Cortana is going to be, according to Halsey, is a way for new generations of Spartans to control them and less human emotion and all that good stuff. So it's really interesting to see. John, like I said, leaves Kwan behind. He actually travels to the Stalwart Dawn, which is a ship in the, of course, Halo, and is brought in cuffs, and everybody's like, watching their backs, as he's brought in handcuffs and stuff like that. He's taken and sat down next to Halsey, and she's like, why did you protect her? And he's like, I don't know. Would you kill somebody like that, a young kid? And he basically tells her, I don't feel anything, but this is different. And then on top of everything, she asks, why did he come back? And he says, there's no one else I could trust. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because if you know Halsey and her character in the series or the franchise, she's not a good character. She's an evil, evil woman. And on top of that, they're holding the Keystone, which is going to play big into the fall. I'm assuming, I don't know because I haven't seen them, but I'm assuming that near the end of the season is when it's going to be the fall of Reach. But as of right now, they're holding the Keystone artifact is a kind of map to, of course, the Halo ring. So that's pretty much where this episode lies when it comes to the episode. It's, once again, this series as of 2 episodes is going completely different than the actual video game franchise. It's still holding on to the whole Reach, and it's holding on to Master Chief's persona and the idea of this world that is Halo, with the ships and the vehicles. We see the Warthogs, and we see the little motorbikes and stuff like that, and we see all the characters we see in the the original Halo games. But I like the fact that they're giving personality to John. They strip John down to the simple bare bones of a character and trying to build him back up. And on top of everything, the fact that we're seeing John, the fact that he actually takes off his armor, is really fascinating, of a character that we never really got a good personality of. He's a character that's quite boring, to be fairly honest, but he has some emotional arcs, especially in Halo Infinite. But I know this is kind of strange, and you may not like my opinion on this, but this is a fantastic series so far after 2 episodes. It's a series that definitely is worth watching, especially even if you're a Halo fan. I think you'll get something out of this. I just don't know how people are going to feel with the whole idea of John taking off his helmet and the personality thing. I don't know if people really want him to be like the video game. It's kind of, a kind of trade-off that you have to do to have any type of personality. But once again, that's where I lie. Like I said, I really love this episode. I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10 again. This is a pretty great episode. It's a lot calmer and quieter than the last episode. But I mean, when I talk about it in my non-spoiler review, which I'm going to record after this video, it's just so good. It really is. It really is an interesting character study piece on a character that had no study or character in the original games, that had little interest, intrigue, and stuff like that. So 9.5 out of 10 is my take for Halo Season 1, Episode 2, which is called Unbound, which also is interesting. Like I said, he has that stamp. He gets that stamp from that kid, by the way. So I thought that was kind of interesting, which is a nice little moment, which I'm sure is going to run through the whole entire season. So, yeah, there you go. That's my take, and that'll do it. That'll be my take on Unbound. But comments below. What do you think of episode 2? Did you like it? Do you feel that it is a good progression? Are you expecting more? Honestly, tell me if you're expecting more out of the series and you don't like it and you don't feel like you want to progress with it. You know, that's perfectly all right. I'm interested to see like the different varying opinions of what the show is doing. But I think for the most part, people will like it. So, but let me know in the comments below. But anyways, thank you so much. If you like what you see on the channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Halo. Peace out.